Oh, it says on air.
Hey,
Hello, Daddy-O. As if we've been
hello.
talking for the last hour.
You know what? I am completely blanking. Where do the comments show up?
Should be on the live stream, which I can pull up on the computer here if it's fine for me to step off screen for a sec.
Is that on OBS?
It might be, but I usually look at it actually on the channel. But I think they do show up on OBS.
I always thought they did too, but I'm not even seeing. Usually that channel box pops up.
Yes, that's what I'm picturing.
Uh,
Up on my monitor right here.
what? Try
I can pull it up on my monitor right
how
here.
to pull up chat
It'll
on
be a little delayed,
OBS.
but
Open settings, let's go to the stream tab, open settings, go to stream, file, settings, let's go to the stream,
check.
connect account, yep, we're connected to YouTube, enable chat doc. Connect account to your service. Enable chat. Go to the top menu, click Docs. Oh, got it. That was already cool. Docs. Oh, hi, custom brothers, scenes, sources, blah, blah, blah. Chat. And it popped right up.
Oh, awesome. Hello, those in the chat. Happy to have you this week. That was a double hand finger wiggle.
Are you able to send a chat?
No. My whole screen is just the video ninja thing.
Oh, wow.
And we should tell people we had to go separate this week because if you cannot tell, I have a bad cold. I didn't want to come over and infect everyone at the household, so I have remained sequestered. So we're doing it a little different this week. So I probably can't see the chats, but hopefully Dad can read them to me and I can respond promptly if possible.
And I have a marshmallow stuck to my head.
I was gonna say, saving it for later. Yeah, some stitches in there healing up.
Yeah.
Which stinks, but
it's asking me to sign into chat.
Really?
I've never had to do that.
No, we've never signed into chat.
You close a dockable, and if you'd like to show it again, you do not check it. Okay. But let me do that one more time. Oh, that was docs, chat. There's my chat. All messages you send. Top chat, top fans, participants, the exit, timestamps. Don't really need. Well, I can't tell if anyone's chatting or not.
I can try hopping on YouTube real quick on my monitor right here. Okay, I'll try.
Is it this mic that I'm using? Let's see. Is it this mic I'm using? Yes, now that's much better. It's amazing how much stuff there is to like finagle with this.
Oh my gosh, no kidding.
And like being a pretty non-tech savvy guy. Is it this
mic? We can do it.
I know, I've got all kinds of stuff going on here. Because see, I don't see any chat activity.
Okay, I'm going to send one and then tell me if you are able to see it. Hello, this is the... Can you see it?
Yay, it did. This is, all right, cool, so that's working. This is the queen of the grooves.
Goober? Yes, that's... Okay, so chat is working. We're up and running.
That is
we just no one's in it yet except for me, but hey, that's somebody.
And I think I can't tell, honestly, where my microphone is coming from.
Oh, don't you hate that?
Yeah, I can't. I can't tell which one, but I've got mine cranked. But it sounded pretty good when I did the test run.
When we did the test, it sounded good. Hopefully, we can get some folks in the chat to let us know if it's how it sounds.
Yeah, that sounds good. You sounded a little echoey just
I know.
now.
I heard the echo. Hopefully, that resolves itself. Now it seems like maybe it's not echoing.
Yeah, and your words were lagging. Your mouth was like this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, since it's after 5, let's pick up where we left last week. So we kind of had a technical difficulty, and we're still working through that. This thing is so weird on my. It feels so big.
You can hardly notice it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So last week we were talking about an article that was on crossexamine.org, which is Frank Turek, a popular apologetic, fundamentalist, evangelical apologist, and there was an article on there written by Brian Chilton, who was who's also like an apologist, and he wrote this article entitled "The Four Major Reasons Why People Become Atheists." So I sent it over to Jess and said, "Hey, check this out, and do you think it's something we could talk about?" And she agreed.
Made me a little bit angry and annoyed, if I'm being honest, but that I thought, oh, this would be good kindling for the fire.
It always sparks my interest when I see something called the four major reasons why people become anything, because how could you possibly know? Like, people are so diverse and there's so many reasons for everything everyone does, and to consolidate it all down to something like that is just kind of naive and insulting in a lot of ways. It's like you have no idea.
Have to do such a major study, and I just feel like I know that they didn't, because the number one was the moral thing. Oh, like we want to go do immoral things once we've deconstructed, which is
and I'll read it. Last week we had up on the screen and everything. I was trying all kinds of different scenes and back and forth, and that I think is probably why it all crashed. So this time I just have it off.
Computer exploded.
Yeah, it literally shut down, and then later to find out that it was probably just a cord that came loose, and it was probably me moving around so much I probably kicked something loose.
The funny part is I actually helped build that computer. So it might have been something that I didn't snap all the way in or something like that.
Oh yeah, I could blame you.
Yeah, I would.
Your audio shows like 2 bars when you talk. You got a cool. Yours is cool.
Oh, thanks a million.
Oh my God. Okay, so and also just this channel, the reason it's here is for people that are, the primary reason we're doing this is every Wednesday 5 to 6 for Eastern time. Anyone that's going through the process of maybe questioning their faith, maybe in the process of leaving it and knowing you don't believe anymore, and all the struggles that go along with that, just to build a place where you can come and ask questions about it if you have them, and then if you are in that process, to build some community, because it's really a hard thing to do when you're leaving your faith.
Yeah, it's huge, and we just want to be a safe place where you can hang out with like-minded people, feel comfortable, ask any questions you want. We definitely, that's the direction we want to go, is where we're just kind of talking and having dialogue, and you can ask anything about anything. It doesn't even need to be necessarily related to the topic, but if you have anything you want to ask us or that you just want to comment, we love the interaction. So feel free to spend with literally whatever.
And we've kind of committed to do this together. We started a little while back, and we're going to do it for a year and just see what happens. If people, if it's something that's needed out there, may or may not be. If not, we're having fun doing it together and learning a lot, and having fun and connecting with some people already. So it's been very cool.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
the article, and I would put a link if I knew how to do that, but I don't. So I could get that to you if you have a question. Uh, put it in the chat, and I could get that to you. It's by Brian Chilton, who is also another. Which what really surprised me about this? He's an apologist, has his own ministry, and has a PhD in apology in
Yeah.
biblical studies, and to have some like it's just really shocking. You can have a PhD and put together an article like this with just no depth to it or anything, and it's like I think a lot of times that what apologists are in the Christian world is people who go to, which we talked about last week, they go to Christian universities where basically you have to sign a statement like of what you believe. So you're not going there to like think and be taught how to like, hey, I'm gonna be taught the languages and the ancient cultures, or pick a specialty area and go and do my PhD work to really understand this, so I can analyze things and come away with what is true. It's if you have to sign out of the gate that you already agree with certain things, you're saying it doesn't matter what I learn or what I come across, I'm still going to think the same thing,
Yeah.
which honestly was another one of those um, things in my deconstruction. When I learned that going to Bible college myself, and I didn't go to those higher levels, but when I started realizing everyone that has either has learned the same things I've learned and they don't tell you about it, they just ignore it all, or they went into somewhere where they weren't exposed to those things. They were just exposed to more of the organization's doctrines, and that's what they teach. And it was really disheartening. It's like I thought this was all so true and just so crystal clear that man, if you had the right information, this of course is what everyone would believe. And I found it was the
I,
opposite.
I think what you're saying exactly can be summed up that somebody who has a PhD in apologetics, that's not a PhD in Bible studies or Bible historicity or something like that. It has really nothing to do with the veracity of the Bible and its claims. It has everything to do with arguing for your specific religion. And there's apologetics for every single religion. And I think that was one of the things that bothered you the most, was having to sign something that says, hey, even if you don't agree with this, you still have to teach it, or at the very least, you can't teach against
Yeah,
it.
it
And
was
I
really
that's troubling. In any capacity, that would be troubling.
yeah. He earned a PhD in. I just want to make sure I was getting that right. According to uh, WordPress, he earned a PhD in theology and apologetics at Liberty University. So, like,
Oh, yeah.
you're taking and we were talking about that last week, where Liberty is one of those areas where professors even have to teach within a certain parameter. It's like you can't. So this may be news to you, like it was to me. There are other theological seminaries where you go, and you're not there to learn a particular brand of religion or anything. You're given all the tools in your field of expertise that you're studying on how to best evaluate manuscripts, archaeology, languages, cultures, to and then to have those skills to then go to what is available, which are the manuscripts and all those other things, and then come away with what you believe to be true using those skills. That's not what a degree in apologetics is teaching you. What the apologetics are to protect those areas and explain away areas that seem contradictory or don't make sense or there's no proof or evidence for, and also to be able to promote your religion, and to let the people in your denomination know, hey, here's someone who's got their PhD in this, so wow, it must be true. I thought that's what was happening, and it's not.
No, it's more teaching you the arguments or the debate points, or
Yeah,
when people bring up really good reasons why it might not be accurate, or big moral conundrums that to anybody would seem super obvious. It's
yeah,
kind of teaching the argument points to that rather than it is teaching you, like you're saying, what the ancient text actually said and meant. It's not anything about that. It's
yeah. What were
about
those people really thinking about? Like, they all believed back then that the world was flat. So that's probably what the biblical authors would obviously have been writing about, because from that perspective. But it's all supposed to be inspired from God, and then it's
right.
like, well, didn't God know it's round? And was that too much of a revelation to lay on them, that the sphere, the world is actually round, or a sphere suspended in space based on gravity and all the physics that go along with it? And people be like, well, that would have just blown their minds. Oh, but he shows up and kills all the firstborn in Egypt. That's not blowing their minds. Like, he appears as a column of fire by day and smoke at night. He parts the Red Sea. He didn't do those things because it was written by men. Is why it was written from. That's why it all seems like it's written from men and their understanding at that time. Not because God didn't want to blow their minds and tell them too much. It's because he wasn't the one giving the information. There was no one giving the information. It was men
Oh, absolutely.
writing down what they perceived.
That's a really good point too, to say like, hey, it's not going to blow their minds too much to literally make food rain from the sky.
Yeah, it's
But but I wouldn't dare drop the hey, you probably shouldn't own other people bomb on
yeah,
us.
no slavery, women are equal. We'll plant those seeds and let it play out for 1,500 years until it finally comes around to where people do get what I'm really trying to nudge them at. But, forget all of the people that were harmed and murdered and families were separated and abused through 1,500 years. If it was God and it was really not wanting people to own other people, I think he could have just said that.
I think
Because
yo
he
one
said everything else that he wanted to say, supposedly. It's things like that. Again, if someone reads through all of that and comes away with and has their own understanding of how all that still makes sense, that's great.
yeah.
It just did not work for me, um, and those were the kind of things that's where I started to really question, and learning the whole thing about apologetics too, how different how apologetics is than actual um, scholarship, biblical
Oh,
scholarship, like textual criticism or ancient civilization studies and those kind of things.
there's a pretty big distinction there, and I think that that's where it gets kind of like it's kind of misleading then when people say, oh, this so and so has a PhD. It's like, well, in what? And if it's literally in arguing
Yeah.
your point, that shouldn't be as big of a draw. But a lot of people don't understand what apologetics actually is. So I'm glad that you broke that down.
Yeah, and I think Frank Turek, I don't want to minimize him as being able to create something um, business wise or business model wise. He's been very successful at that in creating a niche in his denomination, but is creating this thing where he's the voice of reason and has all the answers and teaches you how to befuddle those dang atheists, with these riveting questions and get them in a corner where, what is that true? It's like, I don't, his apologetics, I think, are pretty basic and lame. So when you get beyond that surface level of just understanding what apologetics are, there's no one like in scholarship or anything that's even taking this guy serious. But he's out there with his website and his people that he puts on there, like this Brian Chilton, putting out articles like that, and that's why we want to address it. So big intro. So I'm going to read his 4 main reasons. So we'll see if any of these apply.
Okay.
So the first one is the person desires moral independence. So desires moral independence. Often the person who becomes an atheist or agnostic wishes to make one's decisions without anyone telling them otherwise, including God. The person metaphorically wants one's cake and to eat it too. They desire moral independence. We'll first of all, that had nothing ever to do with why I no longer believe. It never even entered my mind that
No.
I wanted God to be real. I wanted to know that He was real. So I did have something nice and black and white to follow, because that's so much more easier than living in a world where you have to really think through issues on your own and not just have some imaginary God that you've never seen or heard who wrote an ancient book tell you in black and white. That's much easier. Um, so that's not what I wanted. I wanted to know it was true, so I studied His Word and found it to be very problematic. So he says they want to have, and this is what is just so offensive to me. He goes on to say, one wants to have as much sex, take as many drugs, drink as much alcohol, make as much money, even if it hurts another, without any need for guilt. This is one of the main reasons people become atheists. Jess.
Oh, those are. I'm literally high on drugs right now. No, I'm not.
You
That I oh, I can't say that on YouTube.
I'll probably shut your thing down.
Oh no. But I remember when we addressed that very briefly last week. I think it is crazy, the assumption, first of all, that all of that's not happening within Christianity already, because you just have to start with
It
the
is.
assumption that Christians aren't doing any of that stuff. And having grown up in church my whole life, there's almost no difference between the two groups of people. I just find that laughable and also funny, because if anything, my moral compass has straightened significantly since becoming an atheist. And so I think it's really ironic that that's and also the biggest irony of it all is the absolute moral horrors that take place in the Bible by God's command. And that always gets glossed over. Like, oh, atheists want to just go and have crazy sex. And it's like, not necessarily. Like, this is a pretty bold assumption. And the moral atrocities committed in the Bible by God are far surpass anything that I could even come up with on my own.
Yeah, it's crazy that one of the things that just really struck me with this, one of his books, and I think it was "I Have Too Much Faith to Be an Atheist," is Frank Turb's one of his books that gained a lot of notoriety, and people love that in the evangelical fundamentalist world because it has this kind of logic. It uses this kind of stuff, and but the forward, I was just looking. I didn't realize it was written by Ravi Zacharias, whose whole ministry toppled a couple of years back because of all these allegations of sexual misconduct that came out that he was having all over the world. Like, and this guy was thought of, and there's still people that will just deny it. This can't be true, even though now all these women have come out. He wrote a foreword for the book. So, like, this idea that it's atheists that are just hungry for this sex, and that's why they're saying no to God. Well, I guess you don't have to do that, because you can say yes to God and still do all those things too. And I will.
No one does, and no one will ever address the priest situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was on staff, one of the most common things I counseled men with in a fundamentalist evangelical world was their addiction to pornography, and they're like, and it's a lot. So, like, this idea that atheists just want to go do it, like, I don't listen. I'm an atheist. I don't look at pornography. I don't want to.
Me neither.
When I had that, I was doing that when I was a younger person, and in my late 20s was the last time I looked at pornography, and it has nothing to. It's just a bizarre thought, and that's what I'm thinking. This is someone who has their PhD and is writing this article to explain one of the main reasons someone wants to become an atheist, and it has nothing to do with at least this atheist and others that I personally know. It has nothing to do with that they want to be morally free. Again, I'll always go back to, for me, It was because I was told the Bible was God's inerrant word without mistake or error, um, and uh, and I just read it and found out, oh, it has all kinds of problems and errors and mistakes and contradictions in it, and things that a God would never, not a God is portrayed as loving and good, would ever write that book. So
Oh yeah.
that's what
Well,
did
that's what I
it,
was
not
gonna say. I
anything
mean,
else.
it could be a God, but it's certainly not a loving God.
Yeah,
So I would completely agree there.
yeah. So and
The
then
the
this,
more the moral one's my favorite one because I'm like that it's almost comical to me, and it makes me think that whoever that this Brian guy that wrote the article either never met atheists or never met Christians, and I know that he must be aware of what goes on in Christian spheres because it's just people, and it's not even to be negative. It happens in all spheres because we're all just people. But it's just annoying that you would know that and then still write this article portraying atheists as sex and drug and wealth seeking crazed maniacs when it's just people are people across the board. And
exactly.
he does know that. He does because he's been involved in the church long enough to know that. So that's what's very insulting and really dishonest, honestly. It's misleading.
Yeah. And it says if there is no God, then the person is free to choose their own morals, which, hey,
Good.
newsflash, everyone does, including Christians. They happen to choose the morals that God dictates, that they're making the choice to choose those morals. Everybody does.
Yeah.
I just don't, there's certain things in the Bible, a lot of things morally that I would never agree with, and I think are not, they're harmful to other people. And that's all you need is to, as a human being, is just to look around and understand. I don't like to be harmed and wronged, and I don't like my kids or my wife or my family or friends I care about to be harmed or wronged. So I don't want that to happen. That's harmful to people. So it's okay to base morals on that, just observation. Because the other thing that's really misleading is he says, as he goes through all that and says um, that it's all about claiming moral independence, he finishes it with saying, unfortunately for the skeptic, I guess that's me, humans are built with a moral code within them. The moral law is transcendent. People realize it is wrong to hurt others unnecessarily. Well, that doesn't have to come from some, you'd have to prove that there's some transcendental something planting that in me. Other, because what is the more Occam's razor, easier solution, adding the less complication to the answer is that I know what it's like to be harmed.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to happen to me, and I therefore don't want to do it to others.
But
In
that's a
adding a transcendental that cannot be proven or demonstrated in any way and never has been, is adding a lot to say that's where it's coming from.
well, and it's just a claim. It's a claim to say people inherently know what's right and wrong, so there must be a God. It's a huge leap, and then it must be the Bible God because you could have different religions say,
Yeah,
well, yeah, how we know. It's also, I think, worth pointing out that even within Christianity, Christians come up with different moral codes, so it's not so cut and dried. And a good example
absolutely.
would be like trick or treating. A lot of the people in our church growing up thought it was morally wrong to go trick or treating because it was celebrating Satan or something, and we didn't. We're like,
Harry
no,
Potter. You
Harry Potter.
shouldn't watch
Oh,
any Harry Potter or have anything to do with that because it was sorcery and
witchcraft.
demons and witchcraft and Pokemon cards.
I was just gonna say, especially the psychic Pokemon cards, the purple
Yeah.
ones with the eye. I had friends that were allowed to collect them, and they were so freaked out that I had the Mewtwo card, and they said, "You're allowed to have psychic Pokemon cards." I was like, "Yeah."
But so yeah, you're right. Everybody, even within Christianity, you see these different hierarchy of morals and what's acceptable. I mean, I was watching. There's couple of documentaries on the fundamentalist LDS,
Yeah.
Latter-day
Yeah.
Saints. I mean, there's sects of them that believe it's morally acceptable to have many wives, and obviously some of them think it's okay to have minors as wives because they're doing it, and they're all claiming the same revelation from God. And you say, well, they're getting it wrong. Well, that's what Jews would say about the Christians because they added on a whole new set of stuff made up by other people onto their
Right.
religion. And it's like what the Muslims say about, the Christians, that they got it wrong. So there is no cut and dry set standard of morality in the world anyway.
No, I think that's what's so interesting is like there's sects of Christianity where you absolutely don't drink, and alcoholism is, or just drinking alcohol, period, is like morally wrong. And then Catholicism, which is a branch of Christianity, will give you wine for communion at Mass or at the service.
Yeah.
So to say that all morality comes from God, it's like, well, then he's been incredibly unclear on what the one true moral code is. And also you don't want to derive your morals from the Bible, or else we would all still be owning people and that would be okay. And I just don't think that's okay.
Stoning a unruly drunken child, like you would stone them to death. You would stone virgins that there's all kinds of stuff that is just obviously it was written by people that those customs and things were acceptable at that time, or God thought that was okay for them, and either it was too challenging for them to be told differently, but it was just for a time. But then now that people have evolved and have come along further and understand, now I can tell them what I really mean, which then again is the definition of subjective morals, changing morals.
And I take massive umbrage with that. God's like, watch me raise my son back from the dead. And that's not too much, but it is too much to say, hey, women should have equal rights and you shouldn't own people.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't stone people or sell your daughters. I just think that it does not track.
That's where apologetics makes its money, answering those kind of questions. And unfortunately, they're not satisfying at all, to me. And
no, I would agree.
Okay, so let's go on to now. This is the second reason most people become atheists.
Let's hear it.
The person holds emotive reasoning. That is to say, the skeptic bases one's decisions on emotions rather than reason and logic. When God is not, so that alone, like, okay, let's have a high, the fundamental world I was raised in, it was let's have emotional laden worship time, usually for 30 to 35, 45 minutes, literally getting everyone worked up into a very emotional state with the words, with the chords, the keys, the pace of the music, the almost, swaying back hypnotic. Let's get there so emotionally engaged in that, and then have an altar call where now in a highly suggestive atmosphere with the lights down and everything, you come forward and experience God. None of that is reason or logic. None of that. And that is where most everybody had their experience, their confidence, like my testimony, this is how I know that I know, had nothing to do with reason or logic. It was all emotion based. So that this was very offensive to have this be one of the main reasons someone would consider theism is not true. It's all emotive.
I mean, it's comical.
It's almost comical at being exposed to what I've been exposed to my whole Christian life.
Absolutely. I mean, you were behind the scenes and know that worship music, and we've talked about this before, is designed to crescendo into an emotional point and get people into that euphoric, suggestive state. And it's not accident, it's literally planned. And my counter argument would be, if someone had an experience, is that people have had emotional experiences at rock concerts because the music does the same thing. People have had those experiences in every single religion. There's a reason. It's because it is designed that way to spool people up into an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And so to turn around and say that it's an emotive response on my end, where it's completely the opposite, because emotionally, I would probably be much more inclined to want to think that a loving creator that's like a loving father is running the planet than just.
And there's heaven and all these good things, and God's really there to have your back. That's all emotion based, and it's appeals to the emotions. The reason and logic are what actually made me stop believing, is like just thinking through the logistics and the logical implications of hell, of
Yeah.
God creating a sinful people born that way, who are prone to do that and designed to do that and are going to burn forever unless they accept him who he sent his own son, which is also him, to die for something he put on me. And it's my only option. And if I don't believe that, I'm going to be we're talk about lack of logic. A trinity.
Yeah.
3 persons in one, but they all exact the same essence, same power. They're all God, but one's limited. One can't be everywhere at one time. Doesn't know the future. It's ripe with illogical assumptions and suggestions. So that was pretty offensive.
I don't even want to like throw out there the talking donkey or turning a staff into a snake or anything like that.
The talking snake.
Well, there's that. I think that we don't want this. I don't want this to come across either as that I am bashing people who do believe those things. I did believe those things for a long time. It is more of saying how offensive it is to tell somebody who believes the way I do, or that you do, dad, that we are illogical or purely being emotional. That is offensive when it's something that is literally an emotion-based religion that it's even said by themselves. At our church, it was said that your testimony and your experience was this huge deal and was how you knew that it was real. So that alone is an emotional experience.
Yeah.
And so it's
and
offensive.
The problem is everybody has them in every religion.
Every religion.
So which one's real? Hey, if you want, I was this guitar practice thing I'm doing, or class I'm taking, one of the background tracks to like learn the chords and how to play over it was to Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd.
Oh.
And it's so I was like checking out some videos on that. It should come up. It's Roger Waters, Comfortably Numb, and it's when he was on tour and they did that, and it's like this massive white wall that he's singing, and he's just out there alone. And then when it goes to the solo, there's just this lone guitarist up on top of the wall. And also David Gilmour sang one part and Waters sang the other. So when it goes to David Gilmour's part, because they don't do it together, it's that singer just on a spotlight up there alone. And then when it gets to part at the climax of the solo, Roger Waters turns around and starts banging on that wall, and it all explodes into these multicolored pieces. And why I'm saying all this is through that whole thing, they keep doing crowd shots, and there are people like exactly what you would see in a religious ceremony. There are people like just mouthing the words, swaying. There's people with tears running down their faces, like having like very strong experience of that. So like to say that it just looks so much like a well organized church service.
That's so I would love to see that because I think that would move me literally to tears. Like that
Yeah.
sounds
And some people would be
powerful.
like, well, no, it's so different. Something different's happening in watch that video. If you're an evangelical and you've been to and you love those high powered emotional uh, worship services, Google that Roger Water, Comfortably Numb, standing in front of that white wall, and just watch that. You'll see exactly what you are seeing in churches
That's a
because the
really good
music is that powerful and the multimedia presentation and all that.
or Grateful Dead concert. Very like you see the exact same reactions. But I will watch that because that actually sounds righteous. It would probably make me cry actually.
It's so good.
It
But
sounds cool.
so we're going to end up doing the same thing. We're not going to get past these two
No.
points. So I'm going to finish. Like I'm just going to wrap this one up. But what's the worst part about this is where they're saying people hold emotive reasoning is what he's pointing down to is when God does not rescue them from a bad choice, the skeptic becomes angry with God and leaves the faith or refuses to come to faith. So it's when God does not rescue them from a bad choice. Why does it have to be that? What if there's no choice? What if, as a faithful follower, God never rescued me from anything or responded to anything? I mean, I know the colloquial healings, the 1 out of 1,000 that we pray for, that someone in some way gets healed. We have those, or we find the parking lot, or we wanted this house really bad and God delivered. But I'm talking about real needs that every Christian has that are never answered. Well, I know that didn't make me angry. That was, well, who am I to say? That's God's will. Like, how do I question God? And it was certainly not from bad choices that people are getting angry. Like, I'm sure that happens to somebody somewhere.
That's so insulting though to say that. That's so like I think about the myriad things that happened while I was a believer and that I was never once, oh, God shouldn't have let this happen to me. No, that never even really
I never
occurred to
even
me.
thought that way. It was like
No.
this. Mine was like, this is life. Like the thing, and you probably remember me saying that is like, not in a flippant way, but I understood Jesus to say, this isn't heaven. This is not it. This is, in this world, you
Yeah.
will have trouble. Take heart. I've overcome the world. I never expected to be delivered. And then he goes on to say this, like the skeptic may have been hurt by Christians and desired to get back at them by becoming an atheist. So, like,
Uh,
again, it just really makes me question this person's intelligence or motives. I hate to do that, but who would give up their true belief in everything that goes along with that to get back at someone? Now I'm going to become an atheist. I'm going to show you, like, maybe the circles this guy runs in, maybe this is the kind of people he associates with. I don't know. It wasn't the people I knew as Christians. They were dedicated people, and they were like, was their belief, and it was based on all kinds of things. Most of them testimony and experience. Very little was on reason and logic. Like I've really ever systematically read and studied the Old and New Testament and to see what it really says, apart from these preconceived ideas.
right.
That's no. All right, we're going to go on.
No, that's such a good point, though. I'm glad that was a perfect summary.
Thanks a million.
Thanks.
The third reason, the person desires global unity. Bastards.
Okay, but nobody like
You
first of all,
stinking
yeah.
bastards. Who
How first of all, how dare you desire
desires global unity? Okay, go on.
no one is naive enough to think that there's ever going to be global unity. It
Yeah.
would be great. But also, I think that's hilarious because Christians that I knew were typically not for global unity.
No.
Like, well, I guess that's what that's saying.
Yeah.
But also, is that a
Oh,
bad thing to want or to desire?
it
I
is.
don't.
It is bizarre to me to think that that's a like. I think it's really
Oh,
part of that thought process that it happened in my mind too, that things like that become good, or like, or something like that would be bad. That, oh, there's people that want. Well, wait, let me see. The person becomes an atheist, at least agnostic, because one does not want to tell a person of another faith that he or she is wrong. Some skeptics think that they can solve the world's problems by holding that no religion is true except their religion of atheism. The skeptic holds that their skepticism will unite people globally rather than causing a divide. I am not a combative person. As such, this reason led me into agnosticism, at least. So he fell into this. That's where it's coming from. He did this. So, like, he's projecting big time. He's letting the secrets out of the bag. He was projecting. Okay. As
okay. So
such,
that
this
makes a lot
reason
of
led him
sense.
into agnosticism, at least to the idea that all religions could be true. People who hold this notion desire the love of people rather than the love of God.
Oh, well, first of all, God forbid that people would rather get along with people than with a big guy that lives in the sky that we never see. God forbid that that happens. And secondly, it sounds like he's just non confrontational and was uncomfortable with saying, hey, no, I think your religion's wrong and wanted a cop out. And that's fine. Who cares? But to project that onto everybody else is kind of,
Is really weird because I mean I was like, um, you everyone in our family has pretty good people skills and can read the room and intuitive,
yeah.
that kind of thing. So I mean I knew how I evangelized a lot, because I thought it was what I was supposed to do, but I did do it with sensitivity and I did respect people's boundaries and could read the room when was the right time to say what and that kind of thing. But I was never hesitant. I thought for sure. I mean, there's many times I have conversations with people that say, "Yeah, as much as it hurts me to say it, you would go to hell without Christ."
God, I used to say that. Yeah, I
And,
used to say
and
that
yeah,
too.
it horrifies me now that my where my mind was, and I guess that's how it gets worked. But the thought there was never that I didn't like saying that because I wasn't going to have global unity. It's because I thought it was true. And when it started chipping away, that, oh my God, we don't even know who wrote the four gospels. We don't even know what actual words of Jesus were. Like, he didn't write any of them. So everything is from everything we know about all of this. It's when I found out there was no everyone going to hell for even committing one sin anywhere in the Old Testament. That's not taught, and that was developed in the intertestamental period. And now suddenly, as part of this new religion and new revelation of God, it's like, well, when I started understanding that, it's like, oh, I better know that I know this is factual, or I can really back this up, and I can't based on the Bible. It contradicts the Old Testament. God, the true God, right? Like,
It literally does. And just the fact that it's so obvious to me now that hell is never even referenced in the Old Testament. And then it just shows up like, oh, by the way, it's almost like they needed a catalyst to get people to become Christians. And they're like, I know eternal torture, that'll get them. And it does. It's pretty compelling.
and it's funny too, like when I didn't realize until I studied and listened to other people and then checked out what they're saying, that those 400 years between, we don't even know the exact dates, but whatever that possible end of the Old Testament to the New Testament, the culture in Jerusalem and among the Jews was changing over those 400 years. And as the Hellenistic and Greek and Roman ideas were starting to infiltrate their thinking, as culture's always changing, they were bringing in even the thought that there is a soul in an eternal life. Like, all
Yes.
these things were new, and suddenly they show up in the New Testament as just, this is what, because I was saved as a Christian through an emotional experience, not logic or reason, but through an emotional experience, and then was told in on the back of that emotional experience that this word front to back is consistent. Uh, it's univocality. It all is speaking the same thing, the same message, all the way from start to finish. I just believed it. And
Well,
then
yes.
I started reading it, and that's when the problem started all those years ago. It's like it doesn't. It doesn't. The Old Testament tells something completely different than the New Testament, and um, in the development of hell is one of those things. So
Excellent point.
that's why it's not because I'm not naive enough to think um, we would ever have universal uh, unity, especially as long as there's Christians and Muslims and religions. You would not, because you have a deep seated belief that the God of the universe is telling you there can't be unity. So I wouldn't think it would ever happen as long as there's people with that kind of belief.
And if he just means that we want a unitedness in our own life, and in the fact that now I don't have to see people with different lifestyles and think, oh, well, that's bad, they're automatically going to hell. I don't have to look at people through a lens. I think that's a really positive thing. It's been a very positive thing in my life,
Yeah,
becoming atheist and not seeing people as us and them.
agreed. Yeah. Okay, we've got 10 minutes left. We're going to do it. We're pulling into number 4. The person desires intellectual neutrality.
Hold on.
Person desires intellectual neutrality. So I
Does
guess
he mean like check your brain at the door? Because
well, wait, let me see what he's saying, because that sentence
what it says.
doesn't necessarily, or that statement isn't really crystal clear. As mentioned earlier, some do not test their beliefs. When the person's beliefs are challenged, they are left without answers and hold that their previous worldview must not be true. This is why many have left the church. Again, I had the same problem in the early 2000s. My faith was challenged by the Jesus seminar. I had no way to answer their claims, thereby leaving me defenseless. None of my mentors could provide an answer. Thus, I naturally assumed that Christianity was false, or at least deeply flawed. And then this is what I love. A simple investigation using the Case for Christ by Lee Strobel and the New Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell launched me into the realm of Christian apologetics. I realized that Christianity does hold merit. Flabbergasted. Like, so that is exactly what it really just confirms what we were saying in the beginning. Apologetics is not scholarship. Scholarship is like learning the languages, learning the cultures, digging in. Like people, like that's why it's, hey, really weird. What's up? That's why it's like that's why people go into these areas, because it takes a lifetime to dig into one area to really understand, because you're exploring things from an ancient world and you have to really wrap your mind around so much stuff to understand what was being said, what was actual, what if it's in the world of textual criticism, understanding the languages and then tracking all of those manuscripts to see when things change, when they develop, all that. That's logic and reason. That's digging in. Reading, like this guy who is a PhD in defending Christianity says all of his things were answered by The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel, which is some of the most low tier apologetics that logic and reason are not part of that. And the New Evidence for Demands a Verdict, so much of that is just claims and statements that have been updated but still debunked. It was the old, would people die for their faith? The women, the case for embarrassment, going to the women showing up, the different apologetics for all the different scenarios at the tomb. The stone was rolled away. The stone wasn't rolled away. There was 2 angels there. This person was there first. It was dark when this one went. It was light when this one went. That's what that book does, because it's one I was handed to early on, and now there's an updated version. It's not. It doesn't still address the problems because they can't be addressed.
They
They
literally
can't.
can't address
They
the
can't
problem.
be
Well,
addressed.
until there's ever any evidence ever of someone being brought back from the dead ever besides that one claim, it's kind of like you can argue about the tomb as much as you want, but there's a lot. I would just say this: there's a lot more evidence that people cannot be brought back from the dead than there is that Jesus rose from the dead.
Yeah, I mean, you would need very strong evidence for that.
It's a big
Um,
statement. Yeah,
like you would need just some evidence,
yeah.
even that, like outside of the four sources that, even that, like I was just listening, very interesting. I think it was Bart Ehrman was talking about. It wasn't there. This whole thing that I was presented, that it was four different points of view because they had different audience. They were all vying. No one was trying to write this. You can hear the train in the background. These four different views. They were all trying to write the gospel, the gospel, and tell the story. And it's just multiple ones survived because there's other gospels that that weren't accepted by the church because whatever their views were telling, they didn't care for. So these four were the most widely circulated, but they weren't all trying to fit in with one another. They were trying to be the right one to tell the story, not realizing where all this was going and that there were going to be four contradictory stories.
They would be so surprised.
Yeah, and one cop, and the fact that they copied the heart of it from Mark and then added their own mistakes because either their lack of understanding when they would add Old Testament, quoting from the Greek Septuagint, not understanding Greek. Like there's just so many errors and stuff that
Absolutely. Well,
contradiction.
oh shoot, I had such a
But
good
to
point.
say that like a simple investigation using the case for Christ and in Josh McDowell's evidence that demands, now I do agree that it launched him into the realm of Christian apologetics, but listen to what and he goes on to say, I realize that Christianity does hold merit. It doesn't say I realize it's true. It's like a
Oh,
closed case. Because it doesn't. Those two books definitely do not. What they do is I realized, hey, I could make a living making apologetics for this, like these
that
guys did.
that's what I was going to say. And then I also think it's wild that you would be like, hey, read these two books with the same exact viewpoint and the same exact agenda as me. It's the definition of echo chamber, and it doesn't give him any
Mm.
credibility. If you really thought it was true, he would say, go read the Bible, and you'll see that the book itself that we've derived our entire religion from, if it's that crystal clear in there and it changes people's hearts, go read the Bible. No, he's got to send you to more apologetic.
Yeah, it's like why wouldn't the book itself, like if this is God's uh, revelation to mankind crystal clear, why would you need to read
That's
The Case for Christ by Lee Strobel? Holy cow! Like, if you want to check out something, uh, um, Sarah from Leaving Faith just did a review on that, a book review on that, and it's
ooh,
pretty high level, and just but it talks about how poor of a book that is. The whole Case for Christ is Lee Strobel is set up as this hard nosed newspaper investigator that's going to go get to the bottom of this. He tackles one objection per chapter, and there's like 7 chapters, and he talks to one person per chapter who is an apologetic or believer in that, a believer, and answers that question. There's no opposing views. There's no scholarly opposing view. There's no, and it's just like he goes in there, this hard nosed reporter, and says, "Yeah, here's my objection." The guy says whatever he says, and he goes, "Oh, oh, okay."
exactly.
I'm like, what kind of
Yeah,
reporter would say, "Well, wait a minute, because I've got 20 questions I've written down based on what that guy said." Like, well, what about this? What about this? It's so weak. It's weak sauce.
Well, that's kind of what Really Weird said in the comments. He said, "How is it this person is not ashamed to admit that they heard a speech and changed their worldview, then read two books and flipped it back?"
I got a good one. That's
It's
a
such a
great
good,
one.
it's such a good
And
point.
he's not embarrassed to say it. Like,
I know.
this is on cross. I think this is just a really good illustration of the level of of material you're getting from that whole crowd, man. That's like the fundamentalist evangelical apologists.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just say what it is. It's a faith. There is no
Yeah.
evidence, and the evidence is shaky. What we have, we don't know who wrote these. We don't have eyewitnesses. You don't. You have very few manuscripts until you get to uh, after the 300 or 400s, and then it shoots up to thousands because they're all copying them at that time, and the develop. It's just more tons of copies of the same stuff they had at that time. Like this idea that there's just like this ironclad case is, but
And
but
just be honest and just say that. I think
yeah,
that's my thing, and that we would respect that so much more to just be honest and to just say it that way.
I could possibly be. I don't know if I could. It would depend on what it entails, but. If someone presented a religion to me that way, I would be so much more open to it than because I would know everything going in. I'm not going to get these like shocks. Like my big thing was never, oh, I want to go get drunk and have sex. I never got angry, so I wanted to prove to my friends how much they hurt me by becoming an atheist. I didn't want to make the world all. I didn't want to not offend anybody. It was none of those. It was I was told I was told what the case for Christ says. I was told what the new evidence for demands verdict, and I was told that that was true, and you could count on it.
Yeah,
And then I
exactly.
started finding out you can't, and that's what made me doubt logic and reason. So
I think that would be true for most atheists or agnostic or even people that would say I'm no longer a fundamentalist hardline Christian. And that is okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a failing to use logic and say, hey, some of this doesn't make sense to me. And that's what's offensive about these articles is it's presented as some kind of a failing, moral, logical, emotional, like it's just very insulting. And it's all it is doing is pandering to people who are still believers so that they can go, oh yeah, see those dirty atheists. I think
yeah,
it's more for the other Christians than it is anybody else, obviously.
yeah, it's really odd that you would take this approach. That's why this article really jumped at me when I was reading it. But there's a lot of that good quality
I
stuff
would
out
give
there.
two Gruber paws way, way down.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. All right. Well, it's 6 o'clock or just about. So, any
Oh god.
final words?
Yeah, anybody have anything else they want to throw out in the comment section? Doesn't even need to be about this. Um, we
But
are trying to get back on a rhythm of doing this again. We had 2 bad weeks in a row of we weren't quite able to do it. So
wait,
we're back at it
two?
now.
Wasn't it just last week?
Well, the week before the computer exploded and then we had to just stop midway through.
Oh, and we didn't do last week because of
And last
a
week
family
didn't.
situation.
Yes, correct. So, well, it didn't. I think a graphics card was loose, I think is what the situation was. But it's
Twice.
really dire because the screens were flashing like white colors and then just all those lines and then nothing. It looked pretty drastic.
Hey, another thing too is we'll just keep doing it this time, but we could even think like maybe is it too early? Is it if we pushed it back an hour or something?
Oh, maybe people home from work more. I know
Yeah,
we've got people that watch that are like mountain time. So
that's
that would
true.
this would be kind of middle of the day. So that's a good thought.
We shall see. But next week we'll be here at
Okay.
5 o'clock Eastern time, and we'll have another exciting topic. And again, if you call in and have other things to ask about and want to steer it completely a different way, that's cool. We just have a topic in case we're not getting those questions, so we have something to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'll post later on my social media for those of you who see it there. I'll say what our topic will be, and we can reconvene next Wednesday. You guys read about the studies on mystical experiences at Johns Hopkins? No.
I have
Did you see
not.
that? Pat? That's interesting, though. Have you
But
read
that
about?
is something I will check out.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Thank you for throwing that out there. I'd be curious to see what that's about. I love those kind of things. We did go over a little bit 2 weeks ago the prayer studies that they had done. I don't know if it's similar, but could be.
I'll look at that. I'll check it out tonight.
Yeah, especially because we're close. Like I've been literally to Johns Hopkins, so I would be interested in checking that out.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Take care and have an awesome week.
Peace.